Thank you so much, and thank you so much to President Giacopo and Congressman Pittenger, to Parlatino for having us here today, and for welcoming us in this forum. As Congressman Pittenger might have mentioned earlier, my name is Ann Basham. I am honored to chair the Parliamentary Taskforce on Human Trafficking for PISF. We are about a year and a half old. We represent over 30 nations, and we also represent 6 different continents. The mission of our organization is that, most importantly, we are the first policy consortium of this kind to actually bring together lawmakers, government leaders, and survivor leaders all in the same space to work on policy, awareness, and collaboration specifically to stop human trafficking. Most of our panelists today are actually members of the task force, and they're experts in their respective countries. And I'm honored to have them here with us today. Thank you so much. So first, I'm going to start with the story of Angela. Angela grew up in a small village in Latin America, and she dreamed of becoming a famous writer. Sadly, her family struggled to make ends meet. She had to leave school early to support her 9 siblings. One day, she heard about an opportunity to receive education while working for a family that lived in the United States. They promised her that they would enroll her in night classes if she was their housekeeper during the day. So she took a chance on a new job. However, what she thought was an incredible opportunity quickly became a nightmare. She had been tricked and was actually a victim of labor trafficking. For years, she was paid only 30 cents an hour to work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. She was forced to sleep on a mattress in the family's kitchen. She was not allowed out of the house, and she endured constant verbal abuse and intimidation. Thankfully, Angela was eventually rescued by local authorities, but stories like this are the tip of the iceberg. There are millions of people around the world like Angela who are still trapped in situations of labor and sexual exploitation. Human trafficking is one of the largest humanitarian crises in the world. It enslaves millions of people through sexual exploitation, labor exploitation, forced marriage, orphanage trafficking, and other forms of modern slavery. The latest global estimate, which just came out last year, estimates that 50 million people are living in slavery. That, just to put it in perspective, is the equivalent to the entire population of Colombia. And this number continues to skyrocket every year with no signs of stopping. Human trafficking is currently the 2nd largest criminal enterprise in the world. In fact, some people believe it is actually number 1. The number 1 most largest criminal enterprise in the world is actually drug trafficking, but we actually just don't have good reporting measures and data yet. In fact, the United Nations definition of human trafficking actually comes from the Palermo Protocols, which are 3 protocols which were adopted as a supplement to the UN Convention Against Transnational Organized Crime. That's how closely associated it is. The protocol deals with the crime of human trafficking as one that is committed by organized crime. It generates more than $150 billion annually, and these finances are then used to fund other criminal activities. And this is why human trafficking should be viewed as not only a humanitarian issue, but also a global security crisis. It is a significant source of funding for every nation and movement that threatens the stability and security of our world. Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, terrorist groups such as ISIS, Boko Haram, they all utilize various forms of human trafficking and slavery as a significant source of income, which then threatens the stability of our whole world. The transnational nature of human trafficking poses a unique set of challenges because this crime crosses national borders. It creates difficulties for laws to be enforced and perpetrators to be prosecuted. And it's paramount because of this that countries work together more and more closely, which is part of why we started coming together a year and a half ago. Unfortunately, we see a lot of the intersectionality between transnational crime and human trafficking in many parts of Latin America. This crime disproportionately impacts women and girls from cities, rural towns, and high poverty regions in Mexico, Central America, South America, and yes, even Panama. The United Nations Office on Drug and Crime tells us that the sexual exploitation of women and girls remains the most common form of human trafficking in Central and South America, with most victims being trafficked within their home country or region. In 2018, almost 8 out of 10 detected victims of trafficking in Central America and the Caribbean were women and girls. And in South America, there were 7 out of 10 were women. These women and girls are often deceived into romantic relationships. They do not know what they are entering into. They're offered fake jobs, such as the girl that I mentioned earlier, or they're coerced by older family members and recruited actually by other victims. This results in being trafficked for sexual exploitation into residential brothels, cantina bars and clubs, escort delivery services, and more. And this is why one of my primary recommendations to government leaders that you will hear today is that, and those who are concerned about global security, is to prioritize and promote women in leadership within your government, which I know many of your nations do. It is no coincidence that every nation in the world that threatens the security of the world also prioritizes the removal of women from positions of authority and the removal of girls from educational opportunities. So, if we want our world to be more secure, then we must prioritize the opposite with the same intentionality. When there is a lack of female representation in positions of leadership in government and business, then there are less freedoms and laws addressing human trafficking. And I'm so very thankful for President Giacopo, I just want to say, and her leadership in this area, and I know it was mentioned earlier in this regard as well. When there is a significant lack of female representation in positions of leadership, some of the things that we see that are missing are laws addressing human trafficking, spousal rape, child brides, female infanticide, and 70% of trafficking victims are women and girls. For domestic violence, the numbers are similar. And perhaps the most significant of all is that 1 in 3 women globally will be a victim of some form of violence. The trafficking of women in Latin America has also increased with the COVID-19 pandemic. You can read more about our statement. You can scan it there. It's also available through the Parliamentary Intelligence Security Forum website if you go to the drop-down tag there as well. This was something that we actually released in November of this year. Online sexual exploitation is skyrocketing. You can read the full statement there. It is an economic crisis. Actually, the roots are mostly in Europe, believe it or not, but it happens all over the world. And so it is truly, truly the biggest epicenter of transnational crime and human trafficking. Additionally, there are 27 armed conflicts currently in the world, 27, and that has resulted in 280 million migrants who have been forced to leave their home just because of armed conflict. Migrants are many of them are vulnerable, but we often don't talk about that. Ukraine, by the way, is just one of those nations that represent the armed conflict. One expert estimated that among the tens of thousands of children who are the prime targets, by the way, of these transnational criminal operatives, 60% of children who have been sent from Central America to cross the US border are estimated to have been subsequently put into some form of sex trafficking, 60%. And the reality is, we don't have time to get into it here today, but most of these parents are unaware. They do not realize that. Only 1% of victims globally are ever recovered, and less than 1% are ever prosecuted. And that includes in the United States. So you are statistically more likely to be arrested and even convicted for a crime if you are a victim of human trafficking than if you are actually a trafficker. We're going to move past some of these. There are currently more slaves right now on the planet than at any other time in history. And so I'm going to give you 3 things that you can do right now, mostly as legislators, to help prevent sex trafficking and human trafficking within your nations. The first is legislation to fund anti-trafficking prevention curriculum and training. This is by far the most important thing. This is a photo with Secretary Sandy Recinos of Guatemala. She has an amazing mobile education unit that was actually developed a little over a year and a half ago, and I can put you in touch with her as well if you'd like more information, but it's been incredibly effective in Guatemala and other places. The other thing is to increase penalties for traffickers specifically. I know there was another great law that was done in Guatemala last year, and it says that those who sex traffic a child with disabilities, their penalties will be increased by 2/3, similar things like that. And as I mentioned, the other thing is to prioritize and promote women in positions of leadership, specifically within governments. Some of the members of our task force include MP Fawzia Kufi, Nahid Farid from Afghanistan, MP Vasvijay Krasniki from Kosovo. These are all survivors not only of war, but of violence and other atrocities. And we need their voices. And the last thing I'm going to encourage you before we leave is that if you want more information on this, you can sign up for our Task Force on Human Trafficking newsletter. We do send out model legislation examples from throughout the world, because I know so many of you want to prioritize this within your legislatures and your Congresses, and we really want to make that as easy and streamlined for you as possible. So with that, I just want to introduce a wonderful member of our task force. Her name is Alika Kinan. She was the 2017 Tip Hero Award winner in the United States. She is from Argentina, and she is the first ever to successfully prosecute her traffickers. She is a survivor of human trafficking, and she has an amazing story. And we're so thankful to have her here today. Alika, thank you.